What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video, another day, another dollar with your boy. We're gonna be breaking down our futures chart. We're gonna look at our weekly. We're gonna look at our daily, and then kind of determine, or not determine, but discuss what happened today and what might be in store for us moving forward. Kind of review a little bit of what an outside day down is and how you can see that on your chart, as well as identify it and how do you trade it. Are going to be kind of the topics that we talk about today. If you see a little or you hear a little noise in the background, it's currently storming outside, so I do apologize for that. So go ahead and dive right into it. We are looking at our weekly chart. All right, we're looking at our weekly chart, and we were in a decent sized balance prior to coming out of this weekly balance. If you watched one of my videos from last week, we discussed how we determine what a balance is, and we found that our balance was around 64.50 down to about 62.40. We came out of that balance last week, had a really good distance push above, but so far this week we've had a little bit of a pullback coming in on the daily chart. A little weakness in the Nasdaq, a little weakness in the S&P 500. Not so much for the Dow Jones. However, a little bit of weakness does not mean that the bull market is over. If anything, we're just wiping out weak and short-term traders, weak-handed short-term traders, and that's kind of evident on with our volume. You kind of look at our volume, kind of see that it's light, and most likely due to the move down is due to just short-term traders moving the market as usual. So one thing we need to keep an eye on moving throughout the rest of this week is last week's low. All right, last week's low is 63.8750. If you are a bear and you are short this market, that is your target from a weekly standpoint. That's what you want to see. You want to see us take out last week's low of 63.8750. We take out that low, then you'll put the weekly back into a balance. But for right now, they've only taken the first step in the direction that they want to go, which is that previous week's low. I'll mark that on my daily chart as just so we keep that in our minds. A little dashy dash, and we'll do it blue. All right. So I know that that's my weekly low area around that 63.87. Now, if we look at our daily chart, zoom in on our daily chart here. Oh, let me do that. You can see that we attempted to break out of what we had as an initial 3-day balance to the downside. But today, after yesterday's stretch to the downside and really small range, we kind of, determined that the daily was down. Today, we took out the previous day's high and previous day's low, resulting in an outside day down, which is rather bearish, or just showing weakness. However, because we took out the previous day's high first, we put ourselves back into a balance. Now, you can use this whole range from 65.02 down to the 12th low of 64.08 as your whole balance range, or if you want to bring it in like I'm going to and just have it a little bit tighter, this is what I'm going to say my balance range is, using today's high as our balance high and the 12th low as our balance low. Okay, so seller's goal moving forward is going to take out, as far as the short term goes, we need to take out, if you're a seller, they need to take out the 12th low at 64.0850. They take out that low, their next target is going to be that weekly low, which we marked, 63.87, and that would be putting the weekly back to balance if we took that out. With that, you would be getting below the 20-day moving average, and then if there were to be any more real selling on the downside, your target would be that 50-day moving average, obviously. But as of right now, today, and in the short term, we are just in a balanced area. Now, if you'd like, you can use this whole range from 65.02 all the way down to 64.09, which is a 100-point range. But For my purposes, I'm going to use today's high as our balance high of 64.76, 12th low as our balance low. Now, like I said, today was an outside day down. So I'll go ahead and show you that here on our TPO. Pull this up. Will put me on the right date. Hello? My Creativate just wigged out on me. Hello? Ah, all right, stand by, ladies and gentlemen. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Okay, finally. Getting a little bit of. There we go. I was wondering when it was going to give me the actual chart. Okay, so sorry about that, but we're looking at the TPO market profile on Creativate. And if you're just paying attention to our left-hand side screen, you can see our previous day's range was fairly small. We had a very, very bell-shaped curve day, small range, tight range. So getting both high and low from that day was not impossible to do, just because of how small the range was. But today, I split this range. We took out the low in A period and then reversed and took out the low in B period. Okay. Why we spiked up as much as we did and put the daily back to balance, who knows? But we did, which resulted in an outside day down. Now, what is that? What that means is we took out the previous day's high and the previous day's low. But because we took out the previous day's high and rotated back down lower, what sellers wanted to see happen in C period was once we got below the previous day's low, they did not want to see us get back into that day's range, right? And how you take trades based on that. If you are if you're just a day trader looking for looking for an edge in this type of market, right? Obviously, you got chopped up in A, B, and C period if you were not sure as to what was going on in the day. We got, like I said, we got in the overnight, or we got the previous day's high, previous day's low. As we came down in C period, you could have been buying, and obviously you got stopped out. At that point, that's when you take a moment to take a step back, readjust, and put things into perspective. And what I mean by that is you need to look at, all right, we took out the day's high, we took out the day's low. If we're going to have a bit of a sell-off, then we do not want to get back above 57. Okay, 64.57. Put that in the back of your mind. You take a step back and you're looking, all right, I know we're going to attempt to move within this day's range and value area, right? You can see clearly once we got back into that back into that 12th value in range, once you started to find acceptance back below that upper distribution, which I'll highlight here. Trying to chart things on here. So let me try to highlight this for you guys. Just like in our bullish case, what we were looking for, in our bearish case in this moment, right? What we were looking for is the market to not get back above that upper distribution or find acceptance back within it. Okay, because then that would have resulted in a whole lot of chop like we had yesterday. Okay, so for our purposes today, we're going to turn this red and just say that that was once our support area. We began to find selling in that area. So once we seen that we had a potential outside day down, you start to put in the back of your head, all right, maybe selling versus buying is going to be the better option. All right, you've seen us push up in B period, didn't get anything of it. Another nuance to take into mind once we flip over here to our TPO with the overnight session is we pushed right up to the overnight high and could not take it out in B period. All right. Could not take it out in B period. Pushed up, could not take it out. Had we taken out the overnight high in B period and found acceptance back above, or just found more buying above the previous day's high, things would have been more in favor for the buyers, right? You would have gotten the overnight high. You would have been one time framing up. Potential single prints on the upside would have been in favor, right? And then your next targets on the upside would have been that afternoon rally high up here at 85, right? But because we missed that, that was a nuance not to be ignored. So understanding where your overnight highs and overnight lows will also help you in the bigger picture. So you see how we missed it in B period. We had our initial balance, which is going to be A and B established. C period came down and took that out. Not only did we take out the initial balance low, we took out the overnight low. So things started to started to go in seller's favor. All right. Another thing we were looking for, right? Not only were we looking for sellers to stay out of that previous day's range, right? Did not want to get back above 57. And not only did we want to stay out of the upper distribution, we wanted to find acceptance within that middle distribution. If you watched our videos last week, you know where that middle distribution was located. It would have been right here from 54 down to around 44. So about a 10-point range. We wanted to find acceptance within that range. And you've seen that happen in D and E period, right? Another thing to note is once we got the overnight low, we got the initial balance low, and we got back below the previous day's low, we had a couple things in seller's favor. Not only did we do those things, we had trend. We had a set of single prints that we're holding in C period. I'll highlight that here. Highlight this for you. And like one of my videos last week, discussed what single prints were and how you can trade against them. Initially, it was from D's high, and then whenever E period opened up, they ate away at it a little bit, but we had a little bit of a single print here. One thing that would have been detrimental to the sellers is if we filled that set of single prints and found acceptance back above 57, then we might have played around a little bit more within that day's range and value area. But because we held that set of single prints, it was a clear sell signal on that push up in E period against the set of single prints, and using maybe above 57 as your out. So let's say you shorted anywhere in the 52 to 55 area using 57 as your out. You were looking for that rotation back down. You got it, right? So it was a clear sell signal there. Not only were you able to sell E period, you were able to sell in F period whenever they started to push lower. Every time they pushed up, sell signal. Same thing in G period. Once we continued to push down and one time frame down, you knew value low was going to be the target, and we got there, right? Same thing in H period, pushing lower. Anytime they pushed up, you wanted to sell against the set of single prints. ES did go out with a triple distribution day to the downside today. Or did they? Low was 36. The high was 35.75. So they missed filling this set of single prints in G period by a couple ticks. So we have a very small set of single prints here between I and F. So they held single prints there. Boom, rolled back over, set new lows on the day. Right, so coming in tomorrow, what we're going to look for is, do we take out the 12th low, which is our balance low? Do we take that out and rotate lower down towards our weekly low, right? Our weekly low of 63.87. Do we take out the 6,400 level, rotate down towards 63.87? Or do we chop around in the lower distribution? I'll highlight. Lower distribution is going to be right in this area. Do we chop around in this lower distribution, or do we break above it and try to push ourselves back into this upper distribution, this area that I don't have highlighted, that's going to be our middle distribution? So for reference tomorrow, and if you're sticking around, I appreciate it. If you still here, thank you. But moving forward, just for references, our upper distribution is from 76 down to 54.75. Our middle distribution is from 54.25 down to 36. And then our lower distribution is from 35.75 to the day's low at 19.75. So 64.1975 to 64.35.75 is our lower distribution. So what sellers want to see happen tomorrow is open up in the lower distribution and push lower towards that day's low and our balance low. We test that, we could push through it and then, potentially get the weekly low and put the weekly back to balance. What buyers want to see is us open above the lower distribution, find acceptance within the middle distribution, and rotate back towards the upper distribution, right? So we found buyers here on this day, right? And we got a pretty good push towards the highs. Do we find buyers again within the same range between 6400 and 6430s, right? If we can find acceptance back above 6430, pretty good odds of us rotating back up into the upper distribution at some point. Otherwise, we may see a whole lot of chop if we open up in the middle distribution. We could just bounce between the two distributions, the upper and the lower distribution. And I can try to show you that this is what it would look like if we open up within that middle distribution, right? We could find a whole lot of chop, right? We could find a whole lot of chop if we open up in that middle distribution. Sellers get going, right? We could open up in the middle distribution, somewhere around here, push up towards that middle distribution, find rejection, come back below the day's low, lower distribution, retest it, and then push lower, right? We could see some action like that if sellers are intentional on moving this market lower. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, continue to wear your hard hats. Thanks for stopping by. If you found this video informational or helpful in any way, please leave a like down below. And thanks again for stopping by.